I wasn't trying to spy on anybody. I was just thirsty. It was just past midnight. The house was dead quiet, and I padded barefoot down the hallway toward the kitchen. We'd hosted dinner earlier, just a few close friends and her cousin, Leah, who'd stuck around to help clean up. I figured they'd both gone to bed. I was halfway to the fridge when I heard her voice. It's just, I don't know, Leah. He's never really given me a reason not to trust him. That stopped me cold. I took one quiet step back and leaned near the hallway wall, still in the shadows. Exactly, Leah said. Her voice was louder, more forceful. That's why now's the time. You gotta test him before you're in too deep. It's not about trust, it's about patterns. I felt my pulse start to climb. What the hell was this? You disappear for a couple days, bring up dumb little fights, watch how he reacts. See if he gets defensive, dismissive, guilt trips you, ignores boundaries. She was literally listing off instructions. Leah, that sounds. No, listen. These are the 5 red flags you have to look for. Leah cut her off. 1. He gets angry when you bring up problems. 2. He flips it back on you. 3. He shuts down instead of engaging. 4. He gets clingy when you take space. And 5. He refuses to take accountability when you spell things out. There was a pause. I could hear the clink of ice in a glass. Then my girlfriend, Rachel, sighed. I guess, it just feels manipulative. Leah didn't even pause. It's not manipulative. It's protective. You're not trying to trick him. You're testing to see if he's the kind of guy who makes everything about himself. You said yourself you've never seen him upset. This is how you find out what's under the surface. Another pause. All right, Rachel finally said. Fine, I'll try it. I didn't move. I just stood there like an idiot in the dark, gripping the side of the hallway. That wasn't a woman who wanted to talk through something. That was a woman planning a damn science experiment. And the worst part? I already knew I'd pass every single one of those red flags. Every one. I turned back toward the kitchen and opened the fridge. The light hit me in the face, and I grabbed the water bottle off the second shelf like it was the only solid thing left in the house. I didn't make a sound, didn't storm off or confront her. Just stood there in the kitchen, staring at the countertop. She wanted a reaction. She was gonna get one, but not the one she expected. The next morning, the air was already weird. I was at the stove scrambling eggs. Same as always, nothing fancy. And Rachel walked in behind me. She didn't say good morning, just hovered by the fridge, arms crossed. You always cook them that dry? She asked, voice flat. I glanced over. Same way I've made them since we moved in. She shrugged. They're kind of rubbery. I held the spatula in the pan for a second too long. Then I turned off the burner and slid the eggs onto her plate without a word. She didn't thank me. Later that day, she stood in the living room with 3 paint swatches in her hand. So I was thinking maybe this deep green for the accent wall? Sure, I said. Whatever you like best. She paused. Wow, that's it. What do you mean? You're not even gonna give input? This is our home. I blinked. Yeah, and I trust your taste. You're the one who cares about this stuff. She rolled her eyes. It just feels like you don't want to be involved. I knew what this was. I could almost hear Leah's voice in my head again. See if he gets defensive. So I didn't. I just nodded. Okay, next time I'll be more involved. That night, she sat on the couch with her laptop, slamming the keys like they owed her money. I waited for the sigh. It came. She shut the laptop. My boss is useless. I spent 2 hours fixing a presentation she didn't even read. That sucks, I said. Rachel looked at me like I just told her the weather. That's it. I raised an eyebrow. What else do you want me to say? I don't know. Ask questions. Be interested. It's like you're barely listening. I set my phone down. I am listening. You said your boss didn't read the presentation. That sucks. She looked frustrated. Not furious. Frustrated. Like a student practicing lines and messing them up. Every argument felt like it had a prompt behind it. The next morning, she picked a fight because I left a glass in the sink instead of the dishwasher. At lunch, I offered to pick up her favorite tie, and she accused me of trying to make up for something. At dinner, she asked why I hadn't noticed she changed her hair. She hadn't. And through it all, I kept my voice level. My answers short. My patience locked down like I was dealing with a customer at work. Because this wasn't real. This wasn't her being mad. This was her working through a checklist, waiting to see if I'd snap. I'd seen her truly upset before. When her dog died. When she didn't get that promotion last year. This wasn't that. This was a script. I caught her studying my face after every little spat, like she was searching for a crack. Some sign I'd finally lose it. But I wouldn't give her that. You good? I asked her Thursday night when she sat quiet through dinner, pushing food around her plate. Yeah, she mumbled, not looking up. You sure? You've been off all week. I said I'm fine. Her voice had that fake edge to it, forced like someone doing a bad impression of their own attitude. I nodded. Cool. Then I stood up, grabbed my plate, and started rinsing it in the sink. Behind me, silence stretched long and tight. She wanted an outburst. Instead, I cleaned the pan, dried it, and hung it back on the hook. If this was a test, she needed answers. And I was done pretending I didn't know the questions. Friday night, I was on the couch watching a late-night auto race. Headphones on, feet up, bourbon in hand. The kind of race where the engines scream and the announcers barely shut up. I didn't even hear her come in until she stepped between me and the screen. I pulled one earbud out. What's up? Rachel didn't sit. She stood there in leggings and that hoodie she only wore when she was anxious. I think I need some space. I paused the stream. Okay. She blinked. Just like that. I set the glass down. You said you need space. I'm not gonna argue with that. She crossed her arms. It's not just space for a night. I mean, I need to think about us, where we're headed, whether we're aligned long-term. I leaned back against the cushion. All right, where you going? I'll stay at Leah's for a bit. How long you thinking? Her face twitched like she didn't expect me to ask something so normal. I don't know. A few days? A week? Okay, just let me know when you plan on coming back. She stared at me like I just offered her a handshake at a funeral. That's it? You're not gonna say anything. I respect your decision. Rachel shifted her weight from one foot to the other. So you're not upset? I didn't say that. Her jaw tightened. It just feels like you don't care. I stood up slowly and met her eyes. You said you need space. I'm giving it to you. I'm not gonna guilt you or beg you to stay. That's what respect looks like, right? She looked rattled. I don't know. I guess I thought you'd at least want to talk. I shrugged. We've been talking all week. You've had one foot out the door since Monday. Rachel didn't answer right away. She turned and walked down the hall, then came back 10 minutes later with a duffel bag slung over her shoulder and her purse on her arm. I'll text you tomorrow, she said at the door. Take care, I said, flat and calm. She lingered like she wanted one last reaction. Tears, yelling, something. I gave her nothing. Then the door closed. I sat back down, unpaused the race, and watched another 20 laps without really hearing a word. Then I muted the volume, grabbed a notepad from the drawer, and sat down at the kitchen table. She wanted results? I'd give her the cleanest results she ever saw. I drew a line down the center of the page. Left side, what she wants. Right side, what she gets. On her side, I wrote, space, clarity, truth, control. A chance to see how I respond. Then I started filling out mine. Under what she gets, I wrote, space in full, a packed box, 0 games, 1 locked front door, a man who doesn't play pretend. I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't surprised. She lit the match. I was just making sure the fire didn't spread. I flipped to a clean page and titled it Inventory. Clothes, books, chargers, bathroom drawers, every single thing she'd left behind was going on that list. There'd be no, I forgot this, or, can I grab that later? She wanted to run a test. But tests have results. And I was done being the lab rat. I closed the notepad, took one last sip of bourbon, and got to work. Her closet was still full: work blouses, yoga gear, jackets she never wore but couldn't part with. I grabbed a roll of tape, a Sharpie, and a stack of medium boxes from the hall closet. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't throwing stuff. I folded each item, lined them up, filled each box by category. Clothes first, then shoes. One by one, I labeled the boxes in thick black marker: bedroom tops, bedroom shoes, closet jackets. Half an hour in, I realized this was gonna go faster with help. I shot a text to my brother. Me, you up? Him, yeah, what's up? Me, need a hand packing up Rachel's stuff. Him, wait, what? 10 minutes later, he rang the doorbell. Derek stepped in wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, looking like he thought this was some kind of prank. You serious? I pointed to the bedroom. Go take a look. He walked in, saw the boxes, saw the closet halfway empty, then came back scratching his head. Dude, what happened? She wanted space, I said. She's getting space. All of it. He stared at me. You okay? More than okay. He nodded slowly, then cracked his knuckles. All right, let's do it. We moved room by room. I handled the bedroom and bathroom while he knocked out the bookshelf and her little crafting nook by the window. Her makeup drawers took forever. So many tiny bottles and brushes. I put each item into Ziploc bags and patted them with towels. No leaks, no breakage, no excuses. Every box had a label. Every label had a matching line in the notepad. Dude, you're like a damn divorce lawyer, Derek said, stacking a box in the garage. This isn't petty, I told him. It's clean. She left in control, so I'm giving her full control back. He didn't argue. We kept going: chargers, throw blankets, her tea stash, the dumb herb garden kit she never opened. If it had her name on it, even in spirit, it went in a box. If it was shared, I documented it. Lamp, rug, kitchen knives, the TV we split at Costco last year. I took pictures of everything. Open box, closed box, label. Photos of our shared items laid out neatly on the counter. At one point, Derek picked up a framed photo of the two of us in Charleston. You keeping this? Nope, I said, reaching for another box. Toss it in. He slipped it into the one marked miscellaneous living room without another word. By mid-afternoon, the garage looked like we were prepping for a move. 23 boxes, all stacked, sealed, and aligned by category. Nothing hidden, nothing damaged, nothing left open to interpretation. We stood back and looked at the rows. She's gonna lose her mind, Derek said. Maybe, I said, but not because anything was unfair. He gave me a long look. You sure you're not doing this out of spite? I shook my head. Nope, I'm doing this so there's no confusion. She wanted to test how I'd handle being pushed. This is me handling it with receipts. Derek clapped me on the shoulder. Well, damn. Remind me never to break up with you. I smirked. You couldn't afford it. We laughed, and just like that, the last box clicked shut. No yelling, no mess, no chaos, just precision. Once the garage door shut behind Derek, I got started on the locks. I drove straight to Lowe's, grabbed 2 Kwikset lock sets, a fresh garage keypad, and a new fob battery. Nothing fancy, just functional. Clean slate inside and out. By the time I got back, it was just after 5. I changed the front door first, then the back, removed the old key codes from the app, reset her fob, and tested the keypad twice. Everything clicked into place. Tight, quiet, solid. No more keys floating around in someone else's purse. I tossed the old locks into a plastic bag, set them aside for trash, and wiped down the door handles. Then I walked to my desk and opened a blank Word doc. I didn't want the letter to be emotional, just honest. Nothing sharp, no sarcasm, just the facts. Rachel, I heard your conversation with Leah the night she stayed over. I was in the hallway getting water and heard the whole thing. Her walking you through the test, listing the 5 red flags, and pushing you to create conflict to see how I'd react. I listened to all of it, and I said nothing. You wanted to see if I'd flip things on you, if I'd get angry, shut down, guilt trip you, push when you asked for space. You wanted to provoke me and see what came out, so I let it play out. I didn't take the bait. I stayed level. I gave you space. I passed your test. But I don't stay in relationships where people run experiments instead of having conversations. That's not love. That's control. Everything you left behind is boxed and labeled in the garage. Inventory list is with the boxes. Nothing's missing. Keys and documents are here on the counter. Take care. M. I printed it and read it over once. No edits. No second drafts. I slid the paper into an envelope and wrote her name on the front. Then I grabbed her spare house key, car title, insurance binder, and passport from the drawer. Lined it all up on the kitchen counter like I was closing out a file. The house was still. Not cold. Not hollow. Just still. I walked from room to room, slow, just taking it in. The bed was made. The kitchen was clean. The hallway had nothing hanging on the doorknobs anymore. No bags, no scarves, no leftovers of her daily mess. I stood in the doorway of what used to be her office and flipped the light on. Empty desk. Vacuum lines on the rug. Nothing in the drawers. By the time I made it back to the kitchen, I felt it in my chest. Not grief, not relief. Just done. Like something had closed and wasn't gonna open again. It was Sunday afternoon when I heard her knock. Not the usual key in the lock. Not the jingle of her fob. Just a sharp knock twice fast, then a pause. I opened the front door halfway and leaned on the frame. She stood there with a tote bag on her shoulder, sunglasses in her hand, confusion already creeping across her face. "What's going on?" she asked. "My key's not working." "Yeah," I said calmly. "Check the garage." She blinked. "What? Garage? Go check." Rachel stepped back like she thought she misheard me. "Wait, what's happening?" I didn't move. "Garage." She turned without another word and walked around the side of the house. I closed the front door behind her and waited in the kitchen. Not 2 minutes later, I heard the garage door creak open. Then the silence. Then the sound of her footsteps speeding up. She burst back through the door I'd left unlocked between the garage and the laundry room. "What the hell is all that?" I nodded toward the envelope still sitting on the counter. "Start there." She picked it up and opened it, eyes darting across the page. Her mouth pressed into a tight line, but she didn't say anything until she was halfway through. "You overheard us?" she said, looking up. "In the hallway. Night you and Leah stayed up late drinking wine and planning games." "That wasn't..." She stopped herself. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "No, Rachel," I said. "You already did that when you decided to create problems just to see how I'd respond." She looked around like she didn't know where to stand. "It wasn't meant to hurt you. After everything Leah went through, I wanted to be sure I wasn't missing something. So instead of talking to me, you ran a silent experiment," I said. "Started fights on purpose. Withdrew affection. Disappeared. That's not protection. That's manipulation." "I wasn't trying to manipulate you. You made a checklist and watched to see if I'd hit your red flags. That's not a relationship. That's surveillance." She pulled her arms in like she was cold. "I didn't know how else to protect myself. I let that hang there. No rush. No reaction." "You want to talk about protection?" I said. "Fine. Did I fail any of the red flags?" She didn't answer. "Did I?" She shook her head. "No." I nodded. "Exactly. I passed. That's the whole damn point. You created a trap, and when I didn't walk into it, you still found a way to make it my fault." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said, voice cracking. "I thought you'd ask more questions, show more, I don't know, emotion. You wanted me to fail. You wanted an excuse. I didn't give you one, so now you're scrambling." "That's not true." "It is. And now you're standing here surrounded by packed boxes and documented proof that I was never the problem." She looked at the keys on the counter. "So that's it? You're just done." "I was done the moment I realized I was being tested like some lab rat," I said. "Relationships are supposed to be built on trust. You didn't trust me enough to talk. So now we've got our answer." Her voice dropped. "I thought you were different." "I was," I said. "You weren't." She stood there frozen, eyes glassy, lips tight. "You can grab your stuff whenever you want," I added. It's all there. Nothing broken. Nothing missing. Just like the respect I gave you, start to finish. Rachel didn't say anything. She just nodded once, slow, and walked back out to the garage. I didn't follow. By the time she pulled out of the driveway, my phone was already buzzing. First it was one message, then 3, then 10. I shouldn't have done it like that. Can we just talk? Please don't shut me out. Then came the calls. 2 that night. 5 the next morning. Voicemails too. Her voice shaky, like she couldn't believe I was actually holding the line she told me to respect. I didn't answer. I muted the thread, left her on read. Not to be cruel, just to be clear. I said what needed saying. Monday afternoon, she showed up at my office. I only knew because my receptionist buzzed me. Hey, there's a Rachel here asking for you. Says it's important. Tell her I'm unavailable, I said. And I'll be sticking to that. The front desk handled it. Told her I was in a meeting. She didn't make a scene, but she lingered out front for almost 20 minutes before finally driving off. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. Tuesday evening, just after 6, I walked out of the building and headed to my car. She was leaning against it. No warning, no text, just there. Arms folded, eyes rimmed red, like she'd been crying in the parking lot for a while. Don't ignore me, she said. I'm not, I said calmly. I'm just done. You don't have to be, she said. You're being cold. I raised an eyebrow. Cold is blocking your number. Cold is dumping your stuff on the lawn. I gave you the exact thing you asked for, space. She stepped toward me. I didn't know what else to do. Okay? I was scared. I didn't want to get blindsided like Leah did. She thought she was fine too, until her boyfriend just checked out one day. And your solution to that, I said, was to create fake fights and see if I'd turn into a monster? She didn't respond. You want to know what scared people do? I said. They talk. They ask questions. They say, hey, I'm feeling nervous. Can we sit down and have a real conversation? I didn't think you'd understand. That's the thing, Rachel, I would've, but you never gave me the chance. You were too busy building a trap. Her lip trembled, and she looked down. I kept going. If you just said, I need to know I'm safe with you, we could have handled that. Together. But instead you lit the fuse and waited to see if I'd blow. Tears rolled down her cheeks, silent and fast. I didn't think it'd end like this, she whispered. I unlocked my car. It ended the second you turned us into a science project, I said. She stepped back, wiping her face. I got in, started the engine, and looked straight ahead. She stood there for a second longer, just standing. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't follow. I was in the middle of folding laundry when the doorbell rang. 2 sharp presses, like whoever was out there came loaded with attitude. I opened the door and there she was. Leah. Hair curled, sunglasses on top of her head, arms crossed so tight her shoulders nearly touched her ears. Can we talk? She asked, already stepping forward like she wasn't planning to wait for an answer. I didn't move. We can talk right here, she sighed, like I was the problem for not letting her in. Look, I know you're mad, but you're making a mistake. Rachel loves you. She's got a strange way of showing it, I said. Leah narrowed her eyes. You're seriously gonna throw away a whole relationship over one misstep? That's dramatic. That wasn't a misstep, I said. It was a setup. And it wasn't even her idea. It was yours. She was trying to protect herself, she snapped. People lie. People fake being good guys. What she did was smart. No, I said. What she did was dishonest. And what you did was manipulate her into creating problems that didn't exist. Leah took a step closer. You're twisting this. You're not even giving her a chance to explain. She had a chance, I said flatly. She used it to test me instead of trust me. That was her choice. She made a mistake. So what? Everyone does. Sure, I said. But not everyone turns love into a checklist. Leah scoffed. You're being stubborn. You know that? Like weirdly cold. Is this how you deal with everything? Just shut people out when they mess up? I tilted my head. Is this how you deal with things? Coaching your cousin to fake fights instead of telling her to communicate like an adult. She opened her mouth, closed it, then started shaking her head like I was the one being unreasonable. I didn't budge. Next time you want to play relationship guru, try fixing your own mess first. That landed hard. Her jaw tightened. She glanced past me like she was hoping someone would come save her from the silence. No one did. I came here to help, she said stiffly. No, I said. You came here to control the outcome. She gave one last shake of her head, turned on her heel, and walked straight back to her car. I watched her drive off, shut the door behind me, and stood there for a second. Not angry, not smug, just lighter, like a pressure had finally broken and let the air back in. It was Thursday evening when I heard another knock. Softer this time, more hesitant. I opened the door and there she was, Rachel. And standing just behind her was a woman I'd only met a handful of times. Her mom, Janet. She looked nervous, like she wasn't sure if she should even be there. Rachel spoke first. Can we please talk? I looked at both of them, then stepped aside. They came in slowly. Rachel sat on the edge of the couch, twisting her hands. Her mom stood behind her, clutching her purse. I'm not here to pressure you, Janet said gently. I thought maybe you'd be willing to hear her out one last time. I nodded. Okay, go ahead. Rachel looked up at me. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, and I'm not asking you to forget that. I want a second chance. I didn't say anything. I'm willing to do counseling, whatever it takes. I've already looked up places. I'll pay for it. I just want us to fix this. I turned to her mom. Janet, can I ask you something? She looked surprised. Of course. If you heard your daughter secretly plotting with someone to test her partner's behavior, to create problems on purpose, disappear, stir up fights, just to see if he'd crack, what would you call that? She took a breath. I'd call it wrong. Misguided. I nodded. That's exactly what it was. I didn't yell. I didn't cheat. I didn't blow up. I respected her space. I passed every single thing she was checking for. Rachel's eyes welled again, but I kept going. And even after I passed, she still stood in front of me and pretended like it wasn't a setup. That's not a communication problem. That's a values problem. I was scared, Rachel whispered. I didn't know how else to protect myself. There's a difference between protecting yourself and setting traps, I said. You could have just talked to me. You didn't. Janet stepped in. I know this is complicated, but she loves you. She made a mistake, yes, but she's willing to fix it. I looked her in the eye. I believe that, and I appreciate you coming here with her. I really do. Rachel reached out, barely a whisper in her voice. Can we just try counseling? I shook my head. It's not about punishment. It's not about getting even. It's about the foundation. Trust, honesty, respect. Those aren't things I can rebuild just because you finally see what you lost. She let her hand fall. Janet touched her shoulder. We understand. I walked them to the door. No yelling, no hard words, just quiet. At the threshold, Rachel turned one more time. So this is really it? Yeah, I said. It is. They left without another word. I closed the door behind them and didn't look back. A few months passed. No drama, no outbursts, just quiet paperwork and short emails. The divorce was signed and done before spring rolled in. Uncontested. Clean. We split everything straight down the middle, furniture, savings, car title, the rest. I kept the apartment. She moved in with Leah for a while, then eventually found a small studio on the east side. She didn't fight for the couch or the TV. I didn't fight for anything she wanted to take. We both knew it was already over. The papers were just formality. One Saturday in early May, I stopped to fill up at a Shell station off Route 12. The sun was low, windows down. I had music playing, something easy and wordless. That's when I saw her. She was across the lot, pumping gas into a silver SUV. Different car than before. Hair tied back. No makeup. She looked up and saw me. We locked eyes. She gave a small, uncertain smile, like she didn't know if she should wave or keep her head down. I nodded. She walked over, slow and hesitant. "Hey," she said. "Hey." She looked thinner, tired maybe, still pretty, but there was something in her eyes that hadn't settled yet, like she was still holding on to weight she didn't know how to set down. "I'm seeing someone," she said after a pause. "It's new." I nodded. "That's good." She waited like I might say more. I didn't. "How about you?" she asked. "I'm good," I said. "Really good." She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, I'm glad." We stood there a second longer. Nothing left to say. No fight, no fire, no pieces to put back together. "Take care, Rachel," I said. "You too." I got back in the car and pulled away. The road was open. The air felt clean. No guessing. No second guessing. No games, no tests. Just peace.